2024.
What a year it's already started out to be.
If this is the first time listening to us, welcome. Welcome.
Welcome to our podcast.
Those of you that don't know us, I am Sarah, the mother.
And I'm Jewel, the daughter.
Community, Joel. Community. What does that mean to you?
I think it has developed in different meanings throughout the years.
Mhm.
I used to think community was just my personal community, right? Like
Right.
my people. Whereas I'm seeing my community could be community of like-minded people, or also my community being my neighborhood.
Yeah. Within your neighborhood, within.
It also means kind of like togetherness.
Mhm.
For me, I mean, I feel like if we're a community, if you look up the definition of it, I feel like it means like we're a community that is like thriving and we help each other out.
And back in the day, the community, we would like trade. We would, do all of those things. And it really
be more involved within the community.
within the community.
Instead of sitting in your home.
This year, you know how last year is don't bitch about it, be about it.
I mean, it's going to continue.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This year, we want that togetherness.
Yep.
We want
And
the community.
I want action. I don't want people to, because we want to continue the bitch about it, be about it. Say it, sure, be passionate about it, but put action behind it. I think we found out, people within our community, of the lack thereof of what they can do to make changes in their community. People didn't know who their representatives are to reach out to bring these issues to.
Mhm.
They didn't know about certain things that were occurring within our state to be where, okay, we could send a letter, or we could send our own thoughts and things like that, and we're going to be heard. A lot of people weren't aware of that. And that's what we are here for. We want to bring attention to things. We want to bring action behind these words.
Correct. One of those things is within our community, you have the hospitals.
The medical system.
We do. And
who cares for our community? Supposedly. Anybody who can't see what I'm doing, I know some of y'all can. I did air quotes.
Air quotes.
Around, because we'll get into it.
We're going to dive into that. Every single episode, Jewel's going to have a message for you. And this is her opportunity, before we start our show, to bring awareness to something that she's very passionate about.
Yes. I would like to bring attention and awareness to things that our country is contributing to funding, and that is wars happening and genocide and killings and murders and everything all around. That being in Gaza, Sudan, Ukraine, all over. Everything needs to stop. So, ceasefire now.
Before the holiday, before New Year's, I feel like this happens all the time. The media does a big news drop, and the holidays happen, and stories get buried, and they do a big dump, And they do it before the holiday. And sometimes maybe they're hoping that the story will get buried, or maybe not.
And they think they did right by just talking about it for 2 seconds.
Within our community, we lost a human being in a hospital that our family's gone to multiple times.
And we would like to state that this is just one human being that it was brought attention to, where there are many other human beings that have had this similar situation happen to.
And this human being died within the police custody. In the narrative of it, prior, the police were getting hit hard.
In the media, they painted it out and immediately stated that a person died in police custody and those police officers are on administrative leave. Then it became more out that this human being was at a hospital, one of our local hospitals, and was turned away and told that they were in good health and they could be released to the cops.
And we're going to get more into that.
Mm-hmm.
So my thoughts prior to diving into this is, again, the body cams came out the Friday before a holiday. People, it didn't get that much recognition on it. And it was really important for the community to actually become aware of such inhumane.
But what's wild is that it didn't take much for people to dive in and look at these hospitals, this one in particular, to see back to back, even before this human being had this situation happen, how horrible these people were treated at this facility.
And one of them being you.
Yes.
Prior, which we have talked about on the show.
And I think something that we're going to state too, I should just state it now, is this isn't going to be a one-time topic of we're done talking about this. This is going to be an ongoing thing, because what we stated in the beginning, people need to be held accountable for the actions that they're doing. And that is what we are going to do. We are going to do our action to make sure that these people who are doing wrong to human beings, they need to be held accountable. And we are going to keep talking about it until it gets taken care of.
So this hospital is Providence Milwaukie, and we are going to put the links down below within the show. Now, we have endured watching the sensitive information to get the story across.
I think there could be a disclaimer. If you cannot, there's some things they do bleep out, but you'll see some real rawness of it. And if you can't tolerate that, don't watch it. But if you can listen to it, you could even hear the impact and the emotion behind what is going on in the situation.
And we're not journalists.
No.
We're just human beings within a community that is going to bring an awareness and hold those accountable for the actions of what went on.
And I think any of our listeners that have previously listened to us and are still here, which we thank you for still staying with us, is that we genuinely just care about human beings and their lives. Every human being's life matters.
Right.
And you got to bring attention to the things that people are pushing under the rug, or it's just going to keep happening, and we cannot let that happen. And that's why, again, we are going to keep doing this.
In turning a blind eye to such behavior within these hospitals is just uncalled for.
It is 1,000% malpractice.
So an individual ended up at Providence Milwaukie Hospital on December 12th. Later on, he died in the custody of the Milwaukee police.
Mm-hmm.
What happened within that period of time, we're going to actually tell you the facts of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The police arrived to Milwaukie Hospital.
Well, I would like to probably. There wasn't footage of it, but I'm going to do maybe like a
reenactment of what you feel like happened
before the cops got there. Yeah. I'm going to kind of presume and fill in the blanks. So I'm believing that this human being came in most likely in pain and or in some sort of need of care. I think for one thing I gotta state is that no matter how you want to look at somebody or judge them, when you work at a hospital in an emergency, your job is to save lives. That is literally what I've been told for many years by people who work for those places. I've been in and out of it, so I know. Their job is to save lives. Their job is to check your vitals to make sure you're okay. That was not being done to this human being. They treated him like he was nothing. And the only thing I believe that they said that they administrated into that man's body was antibiotics.
That's correct.
Whereas he was visibly having some things going on with him. I believe they said that there was drool that was like, it wasn't, he couldn't control it. And there was like things that they would point out. You can find out for yourself, but there's visible things that were pointing out that basically he was on verge of overdosing. And they didn't Narcan him. They didn't give him anything. They gave him fucking antibiotics. And so my prediction is that they just let him sit there and suffer. And they're saying that he was irate. They're saying that he was arguing and being argumentative and fighting them and all this stuff. I would like for anybody who could actually look through and watch this footage, tell me if you think this man was in any state of doing any of that. He couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. It was clear. And then they literally left them in the hands of other human beings that are trusting these medical physicians saying, oh yeah, he's good to go. And you can see the cops are like, yep. I don't know, man. So then, yeah, the cops got there.
So the police got there and they were given a spill.
I would say it's bullshit.
And there were warrants for this gentleman's arrest.
Oh, and I'd like to state there are protocols and words that have to be said from these people's mouths, and it's protocol. And once those words get said, those police officers are supposed to take that word, and that's protocol. And correct. Sometimes protocol needs to fucking go out the window. Okay, but keep going.
They gave the spiel about there's no medical problem with this gentleman.
It's all behavioral.
It's 100% behavioral. That they gave him a shower, they gave him something to eat, they gave him antibiotics. And once they were telling him that he was going to be released, that he started resisting. And they were going to take him to a homeless shelter. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If you are not well and you're trying and you're not in the right state of mind and you need medical assistance, you're going to try to stay there because you know that there's something wrong. Again, they would have given him antibiotics. During the time that the police are kind of looking at him, going, he's not suitable for jail. And all of this is happening.
And I noticed right as soon as they got there, and you could see the footage, and I pointed it out to my mom, there was visibly something on the back of their neck. And I was like, that's a big scarring like thing. And it was later stated that it could be that this person suffered from a TBI, like a bad, like big head injury surgery type thing
or something.
So again, you may like they're not even taking into account that, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, God, these people are such garbage.
Mm-hmm. So in the background, while the officer is trying to figure out where to take him, obviously jail's not the appropriate place. I could hear in the background another officer talking to a medical staff person. I don't know if it was a nurse. I don't know if it was a doctor.
You couldn't visibly, you could just hear it.
You can just hear it. The officer asks if, if he was Narcaned, and they said there wasn't any reason for him to have Narcan. Now, he turned around in that moment and said,
and when we're stating this, I want you to picture this isn't the only human being this happened to. They've probably stated this to more and more human beings out there. So just think of that.
He turns around in that moment and goes, well, he seems more tired than, before. Again, he reinstated there's no medical reason for this gentleman to be at the hospital. So one thing is they were going back and forth and you could tell that the officers weren't really feeling too comfortable
you could tell that
about
they
the
were
situation.
feeling off.
Yeah.
They were like, this doesn't seem right. But they didn't say that. You could just tell by their demeanor and like
At that
their
moment.
facial expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember one of the officers, like not the one wearing the camera, but the one that was right across from me, was like, they say he's 100% behavioral, so we have to take him. That's literally what he said.
And he also says, well, they're going to assist with, trying to get him to, and they're like, nope, that option's over. This is Providence Milwaukie is like, nope, that option's over. That's a dead issue, man. So these officers had to assist. And, they got him into the wheelchair. They, got him outside. And the officer called his supervisor because, this is just...
He didn't feel right about it.
This is just fucking crazy that this is happening, right? And...
Well, I believe that officer who was doing he was doing everything right. You could tell by him calling his supervisor. He was like, "This, I'm uncomfortable."
Yeah, and at one point, another officer says, "Do you feel comfortable with the situation?" And he straight up said, "No, no."
So their plan was to transport him from Milwaukie, Providence to Unity Behavioral Health in Portland.
So he didn't have his discharge papers. He needed his discharge papers.
So waiting on that.
So him and his supervisor had to go back into Milwaukie, Providence Hospital. And his supervisor straight up said, we can't take him. He can't be on his own. Again, somebody then said, after we already knew the first story, well, he electively, he did this on his own. He walked in here and everybody just, I'm just sitting there like, I saw the patient, I saw this human being. This person was in the middle of a crisis, a medical crisis that needed treatment. And this officer,
they said his name so many times and he was not responsive.
No.
They were like, "Hey, we're gonna take you." Nothing. No fucking response.
Okay, so this supervisor goes, well, we're going to walk him right back in the front door again.
And they were like, no.
And then all of a sudden, they refused
care.
Yes, they refused care. And the officer just was trying to get his discharge papers. So, that way he give it to, Unity and then for his report.
And side note, those front desk people are bitches.
Yeah, they are. In the middle of him trying to get the discharge papers, all of a sudden a different crisis is happening. And they're asking the officer that is trying to get the discharge papers, hey, help. Can you come help me? And so the officer's having to go in there. And meanwhile, the poor patient that they called about is outside and he's waiting for the discharge papers. So he finally gets the discharge papers. And then, you can tell all of these officers were so like they didn't agree with any of it.
There's only one thing that I could think that the officers did wrong. Other than that, they did everything pretty to the T right. But the only thing I didn't like was when during transportation, they never did check on him because he wasn't responsive. I think it would have been if they were feeling off to constantly be checking on him. I know it's not protocol, or sit back there with him. I don't know. But that's just the only
when I think back of all of it, I don't think the officers did anything wrong. I do think that exactly, but it only took 13 minutes from the document to get from Providence Milwaukie to Unity.
And that's where I think that's even like the bigger picture that people need to think about is that time zone of when that transportation and how long it took for this person to pass because of not being treated.
They arrived to Unity and
I think it was like shortly.
And as soon as he got backed up into where
well, even it was like I was getting irritated. So I stopped watching it and then I finished watching it with her later on. But I got frustrated too, even watching it with her again, because they pull up and it just seemed like everything was moving so slow. And I'm just like, why is everything moving so slow right now? Why aren't people putting a more pep in their step? Because I don't know. For me, when I respond to a crisis, I'm like, what the fuck can I do? And as fast as I can. But I could react. Da, 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 da. But these people are moving slow. They were acting like this human being can walk through the thing. Well, you're going to have to pull him in through here. And the guy's like, he's not fucking good.
Yeah.
So everything was just going so slow. And then they even from the front, they had to move the vehicle from there to a certain area. They're like, you have to pull in here if he can't, if he's not that well, blah, blah, blah. Even then, when they're parking there, it was like it felt like an hour for them to get some doctors and a thingy out there. And so the police were like, okay, fuck, we have to pull him out.
Yeah. So here, I think he noticed that he was concerned that he wasn't breathing.
So yeah, the officer who was wearing the camera where a lot of all this footage is coming from, you could see he's like peeking invisibly and he's like trying to get his attention. He's like, hey, he's like letting him know. He's like, they're coming. They're going to come help you. Yada, yada, yada. In my head, I don't know when they stated something later, but he was not responsive. I'm believing he was gone by then in my head. And then the other officer, they probably said something bad about Providence, which is totally okay, but they kind of blocked something out and he said something to the other officer. And whatever it was that was stated, they were like, no, we need to get him the fuck out now.
Yeah, and they started performing.
And the older guy was like, no, we get him out now. And they open him and he's kept nudging him and he kept trying to get a pulse and he's like, maybe I feel it faintly. Yeah. He's like, I don't know. So we'd have the other officer check. And then he was like, no. And then they yank him out and they started performing CPR.
CPR, yeah. And during that time,
and again, this is just still the police officers. Still, nobody has come.
Yeah,
they've performed CPR for minutes still until other people came.
And then 911 was called.
Oh yeah.
Then they showed up. And then Joel's going to tell you a little story about what they told the officers.
What is it? They're called AMR. That was right. It was AMR.
Correct.
Yeah. And it was a group effort of a lot of people performing CPR. But at that point, once that was called, then there was a ton of people. And when there was a ton of people, you can't see anything.
No, it's
you
all
could see
blurred out.
blurs, but you could hear everything. And so much was happening. Da, da, da. He died, obviously, but like he died within that time. They even had those electric thingies to try to do that, and it didn't. So then the AMR person was conversating with the main police officer that was recording and stated that if ever there's a situation like this again where you're called to a hospital and you don't feel comfortable, you could call 911 right there and we will come, because that's not okay. And I think I can't speak for these people that dealt with the situation, but I think for those officers in that moment, I don't know what they're feeling, but you could tell in that you could feel passion through, because you can't see anything. Again, like I said, things are blurred. But when you hear specifically one officer speaking, and he even states, he's like, I better stop talking because I'm really angry.
Yeah.
And then
he doesn't want to ever be taken to Milwaukie, Providence.
Even before this incident that he had to deal with this human being, it has always been stated in their station that if anybody ever gets hurt or whatever, Milwaukie is the last resort. And to always have that representation for yourselves as a hospital is not good. Within even the fucking your police, that like you can't even help your police officers.
Right.
But I think what's really messed up is already within at least our country where there is bad cops. There's bad cops that do bad things and they are wrong. And there's already that painted image of dirty cops, bad cops. So when we actually have two cops that were pretty decent, actually cared about this human being more so than anybody ever did in this situation. And for the media and for the hospital to try to push it out there that it was like the cops had somebody in custody and they died in his custody. He wasn't in custody. Like, well, that's the other thing. He was handcuffed. He didn't need to be fucking handcuffed. That's the other thing. He was not well enough. But again, protocol,
right?
Because he had warrants and da.
And you have to, think, okay, the hospital is telling them there's no medical reason for him to be here. There's no medical. I mean, even though your inner gut, and it looked like their inner gut was like, no, there's something wrong. But these are the professionals, right? These are who you're supposed to be trusting. There's no medical reason wrong, And we're going to get into that criteria of how Providence got noted before 5 years earlier on something, it's called the unwanted. And and they even classify them like that. The unwanted.
What I have to say from what I've experienced as a sick individual, because that's just what I am. I'm sick. I'm sick all the time, but I'm not what you quote unquote sick, cold sick. I'm just sick. I'm unhealthy. I'm unwell. So I go to the hospital all the time. And do I love it? No. But it's informed me. It's got me very educated within the medical system. And it's really sad how our medical system, when anybody comes in there with the symptoms of vomiting, I think the term is like lethargic, where like you're not really there, you're all over the place, you can't really control movements, you can't control what you're saying, like all those kinds of things. They boom already assume drugs. You're on drugs, you're druggy, you this. And regardless if I am doing drugs or not, just so you know, if I did do drugs or not, your job is still to save me from those fucking drugs.
Right.
That is your job. That is your duty to the community.
So let's really quickly pull up Providence Milwaukee's
and we're only gonna
statement.
Yeah, and we're gonna say maybe, right? I don't know. Maybe this may be a part, but we are gonna say some reviews, or maybe
we
bring
will right
bring
after
up.
this. Yeah,
I urge you to really go on to there and look at them.
Maybe we'll link that too.
I think we should.
This is Providence Milwaukee's mission statement. At Providence Milwaukie, we believe that maintaining a health and enhancing quality of life means focusing on the whole person, including physical, mental, social, psychological, and spiritual needs. Providence Milwaukie Hospital is a community facility with outstanding physicians, nurses, staff, and volunteers. We are committed to being the best place to receive care, the best place to work, and the best place to practice medicine.
Bullshit. I call bullshit 1,000 times and 1,000 times over again.
Now, before we reread those reviews, which Jill's gonna do,
I'm just gonna say I've been in and out of hospital for years, months back, like every month. I've had one fucking decent nurse, and she deserved cookies from me. That was one. Everybody else, trash, garbage, and it was all Providence because that's where my insurance is accepted, and that's sometimes what we're forcibly into. We don't get to choose.
So you have to know this. There's sometimes when 911 is called, you don't have the option. You don't have a choice of what hospital you're going to be at. Okay, you can arrive on an ambulance and it could be that hospital. We're trying to bring knowledge to this because, number one, this hospital is under investigation. This isn't the first time that this hospital has been under investigation before. And what is that going to mean? And how are you as the community going to get an update on the results of this investigation, right?
But one thing I have to state as a community member, and just so if you guys aren't aware, because I do realize some people aren't aware of some information, Providence is shared. So if it's so you got Providence, Milwaukee, you got Providence, Oregon, you got Portland, Providence, you got Providence, right? So if they're short staffed somewhere, or if they need, you're going wherever the fuck they need you. So if you work for Providence, you could be working at Milwaukie Hospital, you could be working at Oregon City one week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just so you say, yes, Milwaukee is being investigated, but be mindful and paying attention to every other.
Yeah. So you have to kind of know the structure of, okay, let's say Providence. Okay. A Providence, emergency everywhere. So yes, they are in jeopardy of non-compliance right now with the Oregon Health Authority. But they use Oregon emergency physicians. So let's say you have a pool of physicians and they're working all over the place, not just in one area. So not only does Providence have to, comply with the Oregon Health Authority, but now they got to work with somebody that they outsourced their labor from, because that's what it is. They don't work for Providence, right? They work for Oregon emergency physicians. So know that all the time. Also know that,
but we have to admit, there's shit that we didn't know. This is why it's like, don't ever say you can't learn something or educate yourself on something. If you are unaware, fucking look it up, learn it, dude. That's what we have to say. Literally, if somebody brings us, oh, I don't know information on that. Let me figure that out. Let me look that up and get more information before I have an opinion on that.
There's a few things. In 2023, a Senate bill passed. Bill number 1076. This right here, and I will link it below, actually states the discharge of a patient. Look that up. Also, it is a federal, not a state, it is a federal law that the public have access to health care. Bottom line, doesn't matter if you have insurance, doesn't matter who you are, whatever, it is federal.
And that's one thing I stated to my mom, because I've been in so many hospital rooms. It's in there. They have a fucking plaque kind of thing. It's like
Es
printed
la
on
ley.
it. It's printed. And it'll tell you, it literally says, no matter what, this, they're supposed to treat you. They're supposed to keep you alive no matter what. They're not supposed to turn you away. That's what it is. They're not supposed to turn you away. Well, then what the fuck? I don't think people should do preemptive judgment. And that's what they did. They're just garbage human beings. They literally looked at this person and
they've already been under investigation for the unwanted. The unwanted would be, those that are homeless, those that are,
So what I
suffer from
I have
drugs.
a question, and this isn't for you. I guess it's like a generic question for just like community, and I guess community and like people who have a problem with it. So if you turn these people away, you shut down their facilities, you give them no resources, what the fuck are you gonna what the fuck? Like, what are you like? That's what's happening. You're turning people away, you're shutting down their resources because it's complaining and you don't like it. Like, boo-hoo.
Right. So we're going to go over, and we're talking about just one. This is going on throughout our state. Okay. This is not, we were just, focusing in on this because this is, within our community, but this is going on everywhere. So it's not just isolated to this one event. And Jill's going to go over the reviews and the comments, and it's going to show you.
Well, it's happening every day. There's mistreatment of patients every single day because of people just not being in these facilities for the right reasons. People are like, oh, the money, oh, this, whatever.
I don't know if they have become numb to, I mean, let's face it, Measure 110 did not help the situation. Why we are not all pissed off that human beings are dying. Why we're not like hitting the streets and getting pissed off, because it's very inhumane of what is happening within our state.
Yeah, I mean, there is people hitting the streets and bringing awareness to people who are houseless, but it's not enough. It's not enough. And I just bring it back to, like, I hear in small communities of things where they're limiting resources for these humans. And so it's like, what's your solution then? Do you want to like limit their resources just to let them die and not live? Like, that's kind of like in my head, in a brutal consensus, that's literally what I think of, is literally they're limiting resources and killing these people off. Like, they're not human beings. Like, they don't deserve life.
And we're here to shed light on it.
But our country failed them.
Yes.
And so it's our responsibility as a community to help our fucking community.
Yes.
So I think people really need to see that. And it's going back into knowing who your representatives are.
Yep.
Egging them on, messaging them, calling them, leaving voicemails.
Oh man, I testified on the Measure 110.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's you got to press the issue. Like,
Yeah.
again, if you can bitch about it, be about it, blah blah blah. You can speak, but you have to do action behind it, or we're not going to have any changes.
Community. It all starts with the community, man.
And we got to really support each other, because I think everybody can see what's happening. Our worlds get drifted apart. People get drifted apart, and they're doing that. They're doing that for a reason. And I would like people to kind of put it in their back brain that a lot of things are political. We do have a political campaign that is about to happen. They've been campaigning for a while. We have a presidential election happening soon. Just be mindful of that. Be mindful of those situations and what people say. And also be mindful of whatever those people say, make sure they hold on to those promises, because we could see that some people visibly don't do that, and that being our president currently. And our fucking governor here, our state officials that we have, we see him not doing anything. And so, again, figure out, because it's even in Oregon, we all don't have the same representatives. You have to figure out what's in your area. And
the only way to make change isn't by sitting back and just like, I hope this one representative does it for us.
Or you see something on the TV, or you see something on your phone, and you're like, oh, fuck, why is anybody doing anything? Because you're not doing anything. You're sitting there, you're bitching. But then you have people who sit there and say, oh, my vote doesn't matter, so I'm not going to vote. And you have enough people who are saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And those people who are saying my vote's not enough, you could be the one deciding factor.
Yep.
And you're not realizing that.
That's right.
And I think I saw something where there's 1 million people, or like 1,000 million people, whatever amount, saying, what could I do? That's the perfect example. 1 million people, whatever, saying, what could I do? You can do something. If that 1 million people switched around and did something, we could have change.
We could have change.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little story about these reviews?
So, I mean, of course, they're funneling in right now with negative reviews with the peak of this story.
Let's take it back.
But
Take it back. Take it way back.
Honestly, I could look at these and read it word for word, but I have ones that just stick out from in my head of what I heard. Around the same scenario, I think I'm actually just going to take it back just a month ago. Actually, not even a month ago. No. Just a couple weeks ago. Just a couple weeks ago.
It hasn't been a couple weeks. It's only been a week.
I know. Guys. I'm like trying to think of, it's been not
What's
been
that. What's the date today? The 7th? Holy crap. Yeah. There's only been 7 days of this year.
But
oh my God.
I would like to state this incident and this one situation that we brought up, this had already happened. Okay.
Correct. And Providence already came out with the I'm sorry thing. We're investigating. We're looking at
sorry is not enough.
Sorry.
I keep hearing people say, I'm sorry. It's not enough anymore. No. I'm about to shove the sorry up their ass. Anyways, I would say similar situation, walked a person. They fucking walked a person. They walked a person to the bus stop, dipped him out, dude. Fucking got on the bus and left it in. Oh my God, this poor bus driver. Left it in the hands of this fucking bus driver, this city bus driver.
Yeah.
And what this bus driver said that they had to do. Oh my God, dude, poor thing.
Poor thing. And
poor thing of everybody, the whole situation.
Here's the thing. They discharged him, the patient. The patient was confused.
Yep.
Obviously going through a crisis.
Wasn't coherent.
They were getting on and off the bus, and they ended up on the ground. Now, come on. There's already an investigation going, right? Because it's just, but they're sorry. They're sorry.
And I really don't like to hear the people who say that either like these human beings did this to themselves. Oh, they are the ones taking these drugs. They did it themselves.
No,
Fuck you. Fuck you for that, because they've been in situations that you've never had to be in.
That's right. And it is their job. It is their job to save your life.
Yep. And they're literally turning people away. And it, and like you kind of said, it's like they're becoming numb to it. It's like, oh, they're coming in for this. Fuck it, whatever. They're doing it to themselves. And that's literally the attitude they have. And I fucking hate it. I mean,
give me a review.
Well, there's so many people because there's people coming from not even here because it's coming. The news is there's so many reviews right now. People are pissed about this situation, so I can't even get to it. But there's one human being where they discharged him.
Yep.
They completely discharged him, and this guy was complaining of pain in lower back, I believe. And they were like, no, you're just drug seeking. You're just trying to get some drugs. That's what you're doing. He's like, no, dude, I'm actually in pain. And this person was clean, but there was a previous addict because it was in their record. But in that moment and in that state, was not doing any drugs, nothing. Got discharged. Days later, or went to Kaiser. They did a better thorough fucking lookup of this dude.
I feel like he went the same day. Or
it was it wasn't that much time difference.
Yeah, I think they ended up going the same day.
And I think he was in that facility. They discovered something. He ended up in a coma, and he was in it for like 4 to 5 days. Mm-hmm. And then they put the date of that date is that they did the review and was like, current day update, my friend is dead now. And it's due to the lack thereof of care. Like, they could have done a thorough checkup, and they literally found that this man had an issue in his back, in his lower back, where it caused him to go into a fucking coma, and it had nothing to do with drugs. Nothing whatsoever to do with drugs. That's fucking... I am baffled. That one pissed me off. There was I told this one to my partner. My partner was pissed. A toddler gets glass in its foot. Happens. Glass breaks. Kids don't understand things they're learning. Got glass in his foot. They waited hours and hours and hours in the waiting room. Then finally to be seen, and then for them to be told to go home and they could take care of it themselves.
Holy crap.
As if, and the person says,
as if we are equipped.
Well, and we
wouldn't take you to the hospital.
Exactly. And she put, as if we didn't try to get the glass out ourselves. They tried for 2 hours, and it was just shoving the thing in for it, and they had to go to a different hospital to get it. It was fucking ridiculous.
Who would go to the hospital by choice if they didn't have to? Like,
especially with our community, knowing how shitty our fucking hospitals are.
Let's all just take a moment. Everybody raise your hand if you want to go to the hospital. Okay. Everybody raise their hand. They're just like, that's the last motherfucking resort.
See, but I've been through the ringer where I have to go to the hospital, and they're sitting there like, you need to go to the hospital, Joel. And I'm like, no. I'm gonna make it. I'll be fine. I can get through it.
A lot of cyclic vomiting syndrome patients go through that.
Well, it's because the symptoms that we have are of that like we're overdosing on something, and it's very similar. Because we're throwing up and we can't stop and we can't speak, so we get assumptions of, and they assume of the situation that is occurring. And if you don't have somebody with you that I guess is an advocate and can speak for you, again, I don't like to say this, but somebody has to speak for you. Yep. Because, and I would say this for any situation where you have health issues where you can't be coherent and you have to, and you're in need of going to the hospital, try to always have an advocate with you. Because shit can go down.
Yeah, shit can go down.
And so, like, when I say that, like, Providence Milwaukie and Providence, Oregon City, they're shared. I'm just going to say my situation. I'm just going to say a couple.
And we've already said it. Let's talk about the one.
Well, one that was really sticks out to me is one where I wasn't coherent. And I guess this doctor was flinging my arms around.
Yep.
I think with my IV in it or wherever it was. It was flinging it around. My partner didn't like it. My mom didn't like it. All this stuff. There was also some other things that were going on. And then they come back and they wanted to go into my spine.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, "Oh, we think she may have this." When they're like, "No, she has like fucking vomiting."
Yeah, I requested a patient advocate that day.
Thank God.
I requested a patient advocate, and before I could even get through the patient advocate portion of it, I mean, she was going to be admitted, but that whole situation was awful. And that was just one. There was another, there's been multiple.
That was Oregon City. I mean, and then like me and my
Providence.
dad, when like, I think this was like our final time, we were like, we're fucking done. Cause one of the times when I had an episode, we were sitting in there waiting for, when I mean hours, I'm thinking I think we were there for 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Yeah.
I think it was around there. And then finally to be seen, but not in a room, just in like that triage. That's what it's called. Triage. I kept forgetting what it's called, but triage. That's where the whole thing where I was getting treated. I never got an IV, which for cyclic vomiting, you need fluids. No matter what, you're gonna be lack thereof of nutrients and fluids, and you're gonna be dehydrated. You need at least a bag of fluid or two, depending on your situation. You're gonna be dehydrated. Nothing. Gave me nothing. I got a shot in my butt, which the shots that they give are the ones that they treat for schizophrenic patients. And so it kind of like shuts down your nervous system. And then they're like, yeah, go home. You're good. I go home and then I had to go back to the hospital.
Yeah.
And then I was back in the episode. So that was that situation. And I was waiting for hours and hours and hours. But we knew again, and I still had to go back to the hospital, but we knew that like I had to be at the hospital. I'm not going to get out of the episode. And that sucks for people though, that feel like that have no option, but have to go to the hospital. And then they're like, no, I don't want to go to the hospital because of how I get treated.
We need to demand change for these facilities, for the hospitals, for care. You're told if in case of emergency is to go to the hospital. You're told, in Jill's case, to go to the hospital multiple times. You could be on the phone with your primary care doctor and they're like, no, you need to go to the hospital.
And I will explain one story. And this is from a parent's perspective. And we didn't know of this until getting into the cyclic vomiting community and talking with them and hearing their stories, where this family, similar situation, dealing with like same stuff. But I live with my parents because my health issues are really that bad. But this person lived on their own, and they were in an episode, and I think they were texting their parents and saying like, oh, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to just try to sleep it off. And he passed away.
Yeah.
Because his heart stopped due to dehydration.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing with like we don't feel okay. We're just literally trying to shut our bodies down to feel okay. And that really, because like you'll look it up and it says that you can't die from cyclic vomiting. Sure. But you can. You can die because of, I guess, the refusal to want to go to the hospital for that care. But then again,
or if the people are not treating you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you have to keep on going. It's awful.
I remember I don't even know, so many times where I've had to go back to the hospital because they're like, yeah, you're good. Go home. You're discharged.
In the emergency room discharge.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until you have an advocate and you're like standing there demanding, like, because on Jules' situation, not a lot of people know how to, there's no,
and like you're saying, you're not getting similar doctors that know your situation. They're traded out. They're different people.
And in the emergency department is supposed to just make sure they
look at your symptoms,
alive, right?
But I think
for a couple cases,
and
where they don't want to treat you.
It's very crucial, I think. honestly, it's either my mom, my dad, or Simon. Those are the three people that can be in there that know my situation. They're the ones who ask the right questions because, like, for instance, they'll ask, be like, okay, she's still low on this. Check that. If she's still on low this, nope, she can't go home.
Yep.
How about this?
Yep.
Like there's a checklist that people have to go through.
Yep.
And my situation's my own individual situation, and everybody's different. But having people to know your situation, like because Fen, but more as recently, but luckily I've been okay so far. But recently, these past few years, I've been having these like passing out things where I guess I'm fainting. I don't know.
You're like passing out.
I don't know. But that was just more as like this last year and the year before that. And so that being new, I wasn't, and I wouldn't be there. So I really needed people to speak for me. So like they have to know the certain medications that work for me, kind of like the, I guess my routine of like, okay, she needs this type of medication. This is what works for her. This isn't what works for her. Cause I can't have certain type of pain medication.
Right.
I can't have, what is it called? That really strong one that everybody can,
The Percocet. I don't know.
Oxycodone. That's
there we
what
go.
I can't have oxy because I feel like I'm gonna fucking die.
Yep.
And then same thing with like fentanyl. They've given me fentanyl, and my mom's been like, "Why the fuck are they giving her fentanyl?" But yeah. So there's certain things that like I don't. So that's why I always have to make sure I have my people there. And any other sick people that are listening, please make sure you have a human being that could be supportive for you.
Every single hospital has a protocol on a discharge. The state has taken it upon themselves to pass a bill in 2023. It is so important to know the laws of what healthcare and when you go to the emergency room is, and know what your rights are. Now, when there's an emergency, how the fuck are you going to think about that, right? Especially when it's happening to you. I really want everybody to educate themselves within their community of the hospitals that are around you, where they're at, who's being under investigation, and really hold those accountable in charge of your health care.
Well, and I think if you're so privileged enough to, I don't want to say like not have as many problems, but there's a lot of people that have bigger issues than us. And I think if you could contribute to your community in a positive way, if you have that capacity, do it. Because I'm pretty sure every fucking community is struggling right now. We need people to contribute. And that being, it doesn't have to be money. If you don't have money, that's okay. Be physically there. Be vocal. Like we said, call your representative. Like there's things that you can do in your home if you are disabled. You still have a mouth. You still have a phone. You can do it. Like I uplift those people's voices that can go physically do that. Or if somebody comes to you sharing a story, say how can I help? Right. I don't know. I think more now than ever, community is needed.
Right. So we have to stick together as a community.
Stay fucking strong.
Until next time, I'm Sarah.
And I'm Jewel.
Peace. Our show is produced by us. Our theme song is by Comeback Karma. Don't forget to like and subscribe.